When you think of Star Wars villains, there's probably a few different things that come to mind. Darth Vader, the Emperor, Stormtroopers, but for me, one of my favourite enemies, one of my favourite villains out of the Star Wars series is droids, and you'll be pleased to know in Jedi Survivor they return. So let's have a look at all the different droids that will be making a reappearance in Jedi Survivor. Jedi Survivor is a sequel to the highly successful Jedi Fallen Order, and you might be wondering, with games that are set between the prequel and sequel series, how is it that droids can make an appearance? Well, you'll be pleased to know that it looks like, based on the painting and what these droids look like, that they have been recommissioned or repurposed. And it looks like they might be someone's own private army, ones that have been reactivated to defend and serve a new master. Jedi Survivor will be coming out on April the 28th, 2023, so we don't have long to wait until we can get our hands on, or maybe our lightsabers, chopping up some of these beautiful droids. So first of all, and probably the most classic of the droids, is the B1 droids. These are the basic battle droids that you will remember from The Phantom Menace and most of the prequel and animated series of Star Wars. They are fairly not the most intelligent, they are the grunts, they usually say some quite funny things. We've seen them destroyed en masse by Jedis, by clones, by pretty much everyone, and they seem to be numbers in legion. So hopefully we'll see a big presence from these B1 battle droids. We've seen them with a variety of different weapons, their normal blaster, but also some slightly heavier guns, such as machine guns. Next up, we have the B2 droids. Now, these are the super battle droids that first made their introduction in Star Wars The Clone Wars. Much more fearsome, much more powerful, and something that were meant to give the Jedi a bit of a run for their money. They are everything the B1 droid isn't, in that they're slightly bigger, meant to be slightly more intelligent, but definitely slightly more imposing. They have a variety of rocket launchers, plus being able to have a blaster which is built into their arm. If the B1 and B2 battle droids were not your fancy, well, how about the BX droids? These droids were often called the assassin droids, and they usually were wielding vibro swords when they went up against a Jedi, and that is because they had melee prowess like you've never seen in a hunk of metal. They were incredibly agile and were able to take on Jedi toe to toe, so hopefully this will give Cal a good competition when it comes to melee fighting against these droids without just being able to simply walk up to them and push them over. Something a bit more hardy is definitely what we want to see. Next, we have the IG-100 Magna Guards. Now, the name might sound slightly odd, but I guarantee if you've seen the films, they'll feel familiar. These are the droids that would be flanking General Grievous in the third film. They are highly skilled melee warriors, which will obviously give Cal a bit of a run for his money. We saw them wielding staves in the films, and hopefully they will return with those staves to be able to give Cal a bit of a actual fight, and hopefully there'll be a bit more of a mid-level to high-level enemy type that we'll see. These droids were considered some of the elite of their kind. I mean, if you're going to be General Grievous's bodyguard, you've got to be somewhat capable in what you do. We've also seen that the KX security droid Enforcer will be returning. Now, this made its debut in Jedi Fallen Order. These were pretty damn tough. They could grab you, they could charge at you, and they could knock you over. But similarly, Cal was also able to hack into them, and then they would actually fight and they would defend you. They will be making their return in Jedi Survivor. Will we be able to do the same thing? That'll be really interesting to see. If you've seen the TV series Star Wars Rebels, you will recognize our next entry, which is the DT Sentry droid. Straight out of the series just mentioned, this droid was an absolute giant batch of metal, capable of lots of different loadouts, from both being a melee damage type to also having its range support through guns and missiles. They are also one of the droids that were capable that if you chopped the limb off, they didn't seem to care, and they would come back at you. It has been confirmed that this will also happen in Jedi Survivor with this particular droid. Taking its arms off, it will still come at you, just with some slightly limited combat capabilities. And finally, one of my favourites, which I'm so glad is going to be making a return, are the droidekas. Now, these droidekas, you might remember making their introduction in The Phantom Menace, being able to roll up into a ball, expand out, and then have a shield to absorb blasters into it. They will be making their return, and we have had confirmed that we will see them rolling about, and that we'll also see them being able to use that shield, which might give Cal a bit of an interesting time when it comes to trying to deal with them. After all, how do you deal with something when you can't throw its own blaster bolts back at it? I mean, I might just take my lightsaber to it, but they are a classic staple to the IP when we think of droids, and I'm so happy to see them return in this next game. Are you excited about any of the droids that come in a Star Wars Jedi Survivor? Let me know in the comments down below. I was a big fanboy over all the different droids that we got to see in the series, so I'm really happy to see them being included in Jedi Survivor. But if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribe if you want to see more from me, and I'll see you soon.